in this squad named Tagenarine Chanderpaul because of his weak form in Australia, I guess losing his spot?
Couple of surprises, not just Tagenarine Chanderpaul. I thought Justin Graves deserved to be persisted with. And yes, his performances in those couple of test matches weren't outstanding, but I felt he made important contributions, a little bit with the bat, a wicket here and there with the ball, and certainly in the field, he was probably the safest pair of hands that the West Indies had in the slip cordon. And just coming out of that tremendous lift of that test match victory in Brisbane. And I mean, we can't overestimate and overstate how significant that victory was in the context of the state of West Indies Test cricket. For him to be left out, and yes, he was a pretty ordinary regional season, Tagenarine Chanderpaul likewise. I still felt that both of them would have been retained, but I understand the selectors thinking if it is about performance and rewarding performance with Mikalie Louie, Jason Holder with his experience. But yes, those was the surprise omissions for me.
Yeah, and I guess Tagenarine didn't really help his cause, Faz, by having a pretty tame regional season. He did get 100 against the Windwards, but he had a lot of low scores and I think averaged 29 plus in the entire series. So his opportunity in regional cricket to resuscitate his stocks didn't quite happen for him.
No, it didn't. And that's why I've always made the point that we need to see our test players, when they come back to the regional game as test players, they must stand out by the weight of their runs and the wickets, the way they carry themselves as a cut above. It might sound elitist, but test cricket is elite level. And if it is because of that very ordinary regional first class season that has been dropped as much as his poor performances in those two test matches, then Chanderpaul has only himself to blame. So yes, in that regard, if you as a selector or selectors want to see someone really stepping up and commanding that place in the team once again, then Chanderpaul didn't deliver.
Yeah, and Mikalie Louie gets an opportunity, as you had referenced. Faz had a very, very good regional season, the leading scorer in regional cricket. And when we spoke to him on the SportsMax Zone a couple of months ago, he expressed that he was having a dream come true because he had always wanted to be on the SportsMax Zone. And he made it courtesy of his strong performances in regional cricket. Good that the Kittishan gets an opportunity here as, a chance to become the first Kittishan to play Test cricket. A couple of Novitians have, like Atherton and Kyron Powell and so on, but no Kittishans before in red ball cricket for the West Indies. Faz, can you confirm?
Indeed, and I'm glad you made that distinction for the West Indies, because Joey Benjamin of St. Kitts played a test match for England in 1994. Joey sadly passed away at the age of 60 from a heart attack just 3 years ago, but you're right. St. Kitts have watched Nevis have as many as 7 players play test match cricket from El Comido Willet in the early 1970s. And you referenced a few, sadly, Ronaldo Morton has also passed away, died in a car crash right here in Trinidad and Tobago. So yes, Nevis has had more than a handful of test match cricketers for the West Indies, but St. Kitts, none wearing the cap of the West Indies, although Joey Benjamin wore it for England in that lone test match where, of course, Devon Malcolm claimed 9 for 57 against South Africa at the Oval in London. So it's an opportunity for the young man to make history. And what a history-making moment it would be if it were to be at Lord's in that opening test match, which is also the farewell for England's Jimmy Anderson.
Yeah, and your thoughts about his acumen as a batsman, Faz, because when we spoke to him on the SportsMax Zone, we were very impressed with how he articulated his appetite for the game, his background in, always wanting to take his game higher, the hard work that he does in training, inspired a bit by his brother Jeremiah Louie, who is a fast bowler. I was very impressed with how he delivered himself on the show, and I'm pretty happy that he has gotten this opportunity to be a part of the setup. We don't know if he'll make the 11 yet.
I'm hoping that if he does get that opportunity, that he takes it with both hands and takes it with the hunger and the desire. And yes, his interview would have been impressive, but he needs to step it up and appreciate that while he's had a very good debut regional first class season, and it's resulted in a test match squad selection. To take it up to the test match level, it's a significant step up. And therefore, he, like everyone else in that squad, whether they're a senior as a Kemar Roach or a Craig Bradford, or as junior as a Mikalie Louie, they've got to recognize that taking on England in England is always a significant challenge because of the advantage of home conditions, the experience of the England players. They always feel a lot more comfortable in that environment, playing at Lords, the history, the occasion, the pressure, the slanted surface, which is always an issue of the slope of that particular venue. But overall, it means about a noticeable step up in your game, technically, temperamentally, and being aware that you're at a much higher level and you're expected to raise your game in all facets.
Yeah, really looking forward fast to see how he goes about his business, and of course if he proves himself so that he can be a mainstay of this West Indies test team. Now over to Jason Holder. He has been named in the squad. Were you surprised, your initial thoughts when you saw his name? Because of course he was ruled out of the World Cup squad with a shoulder injury.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned the shoulder injury, because up to 5 seconds ago, I wasn't clear as to what the nature of the injury was, because we were told initially that he was ruled out of the World T20 because of an injury that wasn't specified at the time, sustained playing for Worcestershire in the English County Championship. And of course, we know the World T20, all West Indies fans and all of us would hope that the West Indies go all the way to the final, which meant that he would have been clearly not considered fit enough to be with the West Indies squad if they were to get all the way to the final. Now, he's selected in the test match squad, which starts their campaign in England with a camp on June 23rd. So let's hope that he is fully fit and that he can play a role, because you would think that certainly Jason Holder, given all of his tools, all of the attributes, is a significant contributor to a West Indies team in any circumstance, in any condition. So once 100% fit, I have no issue with Jason Holder being in a West Indies test match squad.
Yeah, and there's also the inclusion of Jayden Seales. He has been plying his trade in English county cricket, which of course he has been doing pretty well, earned him a call-up also to this test team. He as well, reports of him, having a shoulder injury, but is deemed fit for this test match. Jayden brings a lot to the test side.
He does, and again, he's not just had a decent season so far with Sussex in the English County Championship. I believe he's the joint lead wicket taker up to yesterday in that second division of the County Championship. So yes, his performances merit that consideration. We've seen him from his test debut against South Africa in St. Lucia on a paces surface for those couple of test matches. Later on that year, got his first 5-wicket haul against Pakistan at Sabina Park. Then came the setbacks with injuries and issues related to, no doubt as well, to his overall development. You're talking about a young man who had just come out of the Under-19 World Cup, body still developing. So yes, there were those issues, but you would certainly hope that the selectors, in consideration of his place in the squad, would be satisfied that his performances with Sussex and all of those different issues are enough to convince them that he can play in all 3 test matches based on his form and overall performance, of course. So yes, I think from the moment Jayden Seales is 100% or close to 100% fit, he almost commands a place in a West Indies squad, and therefore that is very encouraging for a West Indies team going into this 3-test series.
Yeah, and speaking about commanding, it feels as if just yesterday we were talking about Shamar Joseph and how he went about his exploits against Australia fast. Shamar Joseph, will get the opportunity to see him yet again.
Indeed we will, and I suppose it was almost expected that after such a fantastic test match start, and indeed that fairy tale of a finish to the test match and the brief series and all of the story of Shamar Joseph, that there would be too much expectation. And I mean, a lot of this is being read into his performances, that one match in the IPL and the warm-up matches with the West Indies in the World T20. we need to be realistic and appreciate that you're talking about someone who's still getting attuned to the requirements of the game. But yes, with that storyline from Brisbane in January coming now to July in a couple of weeks' time, for that first test match with Jimmy Anderson's farewell, Lords, and all of that associated with it, it is going to be a really tremendous occasion for him as well. And it's going to be interesting to see how the players shape up.
Yeah, Faz is on a pause.
He
I'm sure we'll get back to him in a short while, but an opportunity too for the West Indies if they do well in this series to improve their test rankings. They're currently 8 at the moment, and they're not too far off Sri Lanka and Pakistan. So an opportunity for them to move up from 8th in the world rankings as they have in the T20 rankings coming up to number 4 in recent weeks. Now, Faz, we also have a World Cup taking place, and one of the favourites, India, dispatched Ireland with some ease today, winning by 9 wickets in New York. India first routed Ireland for 96 before easing to 97 for 2 to win with 46 deliveries to spare. Player of the match, Jasprit Bumrah, took 2 for 6 from 3 overs, while Rohit Sharma retired hurt on a top score of 52 in India's chase. Very efficient today, Faz. I'm not sure if you were watching the match, but concerned with the pitch conditions, their variable bounce and too paced at times, and very difficult for batting today in New York.
Indeed it was, and as we saw it, a bit of it as well in the test, not I'm saying test match, I'm thinking test match cricket from our previous discussion. Apologies for the break in transmission just a little while ago as well. But yeah, we saw that as well with South Africa against Sri Lanka. It maybe not have been a case so much of variable bounce, but the assistance for the fast bowlers. Now, there's always going to be a problem if you're talking variable bounce. Remember, this is a brand new venue, a drop-in pitch. So it is really not tried and tested.
Yes.
And to go into a world tournament with this level of experimentation is clearly risky. Although I have to say, Lance, I really have no problem with bowlers finally being able to have a say in a T20 tournament. Because if people like the idea of IPL, 250, 240, 270, 280, 290, and that's entertainment, fine. And I recognize that is where the world is going. But I would like to think that trying to redress the balance somewhat and give the bowlers a fighting chance makes for a more intriguing contest. But I take your point. If it's uneven bounce and you've got genuine pace, it presents a level of risk and favor to the bowler that is not really the sort of spectacle you want.
Yeah, and to be honest, Faz, there were a couple of deliveries today that I saw kick from, just back of a length, hitting bowlers on the arm and the gloves and so on. So there is a risk of physical injury if, the variable bounce is pronounced enough. So we would have to worry about that a bit. Having said that, Rohit Sharma's top score of 52 today retired hurt because he was struck, I think, on the elbow. How close do you think he would have been to the man of the match today? I know Bumrah was solid with his 2 for 6, but given the batting conditions, or let me say the batting difficulties, I think Sharma's effort there was really significant for the Indians.
I'm surprised they actually gave it to the bowler because it generally is almost favoring the batter in many cases. But you're right. And that's where these considerations come in. If you look at the nature of the pitch and the unpredictable nature in many cases, an innings of 52 is significant. But I suppose it would have been measured against the fact that the target was only 97. And even if he had gotten dismissed for 20 odd or 40 odd or whatever, India probably would have won anyway. Would his contribution have made the difference in winning or losing the match? Maybe that would have swayed it. But again, on a surface like that against quality bowling, and again, the feeling might have been, well, okay, the Irish aren't the greatest when it comes to outstanding fast bowlers. So maybe that would have swayed it in Bumrah's favour.
Yeah, and you just spoke about the Irish, of course, not being the greatest bowlers, but a quick comment on how they went about today, because 96 all out. I mean, I don't think it's fair to judge any team against a team like India when they are dominating in all facets of the match. But still, Faz, what did you make of their performance today?
Well, the Indians are world class. Let's not get carried away. But let's remind all of the Indian supporters that India are waiting more than a decade to win a world title. So yes, they have all the tools, they have all the attributes, we know that, and they look very impressive today. But they've got to carry that all the way through to the final if they get there and deliver in the final on June 29. As for the Irish, they've got a tremendous level of international experience. But again, they suffer from a lack of top quality international exposure. And that continues to be the bugbear for the so-called associate members. And now we know that Ireland are officially a test playing nation, but that is only in name. They are hardly playing the level of cricket at a test match level, and enough of it to ensure that their players continue to develop so they can deal with conditions like this. So yes, it wasn't entirely surprising what happened today at all.
Yeah, I would say India are probably favourites, Faz, given their current status and their roster of a flurry of match-winning talent. But you are right. In spite of the fact that they're currently ranked number 1 in both white ball versions of the game, T20 and 50-over cricket, and number 2 in Test cricket, their tournament record in the past 20 years in ICC competitions don't really match up to the sort of quality that they have on the field.
No, it doesn't. And that's why the point is made. They won the first World T20 in 2007. They haven't made a final since. So that is the monkey on their backs. It is for them to deal with.
Yeah,
and therefore...
Yeah, and I was making the point, Faz, that since the advent of the IPL, which started in 2008, the last time India won the T20, 2007, IPL cricket, the home of global franchise cricket, you have to say, hasn't really benefited the Indians. They haven't won a World T20 title since the advent of IPL. And as you just pointed out, they haven't even gotten to a final. So I think there's a lot of pressure on them because of the expectation. And I think sometimes that's what that works against them because of the expectation and the pressure to perform. And I think they are facing that again because I think most people consider them favourites, even though the Australians, because of their tournament record, would be highly fancied as well.
Absolutely. And that's why when we were having this same discussion just over a week ago, I used the reference as chokers, which again will sound highly offensive to those who think about a team of that caliber really being cowed by the pressure of the occasion. But how different is that from what South Africa would have experienced over the last 20-odd years of their attempts to win a world title? Although, remember, they won the first World 50 Champions Trophy competition before it was properly called a Champions Trophy under the captaincy of Hansi Cronje, defeating the West Indies under Brian Lara in the final of 1998. Many people overlook that, but when we talk about the major world tournaments, South Africa is seen as chokers. Well, India now have to face that situation again. And again, whatever the situation is, they have all the tools, they have all the attributes, they have the quality in their playing squad that should suggest that they should lift the title. But again, it merely reinforces that when you're talking about competitive sport at the very highest level, it isn't just always about who has the best team, who's the best individual. It's about the temperament. It's about coping with the challenge. It's about coping with the big occasion. And so far, since 2007, and when we're talking World T20, India have buckled at key points.
Okay, well, let's see what happens for them this time because the Caribbean is banking on West Indies' success, Faz. And as we say, we always respect the quality of the Australians who open tonight against Oman. So I'm pretty certain we'll talk again before the week is out, Faz, as the Windies get ready to take on Uganda on Saturday in their next fixture. So thanks, Faz, for linking with us, and we'll continue tracking World Cup cricket, T20 action in the USA.